Unfortunately for them, there's another team that plays a very similar style of football in many regards. For some reason, it just seems to be a bit more quicker, a bit more direct, a bit more fruitful. And that's Bayer Leverkusen, whose points per game average is an incredible 2.66 per game, which is incredible. Every other year, Bayern Munich would probably be sitting 10 points ahead of the table, and we would be complaining about them playing the boring football and winning games and, yes, dropping points here and there. Unfortunately for them, this year, there seems to be a real opponent there. Stefan, this game between Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen was an incredible advertising for the Bundesliga and the football that can be played there. And I actually also think, made a few points there, Leipzig do really well when they can hit teams on the transition. But what really, really impressed me was that despite all of that, Leverkusen stuck with their game plan. And the moment they took control over the game, they took, in terms of the midfield possession, in terms of Xhaka and Palacios really inserting themselves, they just slowly but surely played Leipzig off the park. And, this is a Leipzig side that really can hurt teams that, is going to maybe to go to Real Madrid and might even hurt them. This was a really, really positive performance for Leverkusen.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go so far as saying maybe the performance of the season, aside from maybe that draw against Bayern Munich at the start of the year. And, you talk about fine margins and the fact that, Thomas Tuchel's, you're absolutely right. I actually looked up before the start of the show. I think his points per game for Bayern in the Bundesliga is 2.41. I think, as you said, and Nagelsmann's was maybe 2.19. So, yeah, on paper, Bayern are doing everything right, but the difference is that there's a Leverkusen team here who are just going above and beyond what's expected. Not just of a team in the top four, but even like it's a title contender or a title challenger. That fixture against Leipzig on Saturday struck me as the kind of game that Dortmund teams of the past would drop points in or potentially lose. If it makes sense, I'd expect, Leipzig teams who we once kind of pitted as potential title challengers from one season to next would drop points there. But the fact that they were to come from behind twice and win that game, it's an old cliche to see the kind of sign of champions, but it is, and it's something that we've seen them do time and time again. I've pulled up just to double check, and they go behind against Bayern Munich twice, managed to take a point. They go behind against Dortmund, managed to take a point. They go behind against Stuttgart, managed to take a point. And of course, in the reverse fixture against Leverkusen, the start of the season, it was the exact same result as well, with a 3-2 win. And it's these kind of big games where they not only kind of match these teams, man for man across the pitch, but play their style of football, and in each instance, eventually kind of grab control of the match and, go on to win it. And we were saying that when we were, in the chat. We're like, yes, Leipzig started the game tremendously well. They exposed a Leverkusen backline that are clearly missing some players. Not to mention the fact that Patrick Schick really didn't offer as much, I thought, on and off the ball, as Boniface. But despite all that, Leverkusen stuck to the system, and that system was able to kind of help them basically just grind down this Leipzig team. And yeah, it was immensely impressive. And I think that what I said in the chat was, Bayer look a lot like Bayern these days.
Well, it looked like Bayern did in 2015 under Pep Guardiola, right? It's the same than what Bayern play right now, only that the final end product is a little bit more proactive. And I've spoken to coaches about this, what the real difference is, and it's about moving the ball quickly in the penalty box that makes a difference here, right? Bayern Munich still have all the possession, they still manage to play the ball around the box, they're able to contain a team inside that box, but when you look at if you want to know the difference between Bayern against Bremen and why Bayern lost the game, and Leverkusen against Leipzig and why Leverkusen won their game, is because they are able to quickly move the ball in the box. But also, and you see that on the corner kicks, right? That they just have a better presence there and able to run into the space more precisely. And those are the small differences here, right? If you have two ball possession teams that are doing really well, you want to compare to them and want to see why one is able to break down an opponent and why one isn't. that is sometimes the small margins that you deal with. And Leverkusen have done this really well. A good example is also the late goal by, I think it was Palacios, right, against Augsburg, where they just are able to keep moving the ball inside the box until they find that free space. And then when you break down this Leverkusen game and watch it closely, then that's what you see. And I think that's what Bayern at the moment are currently lacking. You take the last few chances that they missed, the Tell one, for example. He rather than trying to move the ball and trying to find an open man, he takes the shot and the shot goes wide, right? So it's really those small little differences at the moment, I think, that strike me. Stefan, I think it's going to be fascinating to see what they're going to do when Palacios is out. He's out now with an injury for a few weeks, it looks like. It's a muscle injury. That's a bad news. The positive news is that Grimaldo, he also suffered an injury, but he should be back very quickly. Without Palacios, potentially in the Pokal and potentially against Bayern Munich, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been outstanding for them. And the way that he just kind of wins balls on and off the ball, off the ball rather, wins challenges was incredible. He was outstanding in that game. And I'm a big fan of Robert Andrich, but he is notably slower. He plays a different style of football. He can't get around the pitch as much. So we will have to see from that. I'll let Matt jump in a minute because I know he hasn't said anything on this, but all I would add is that, it's maybe unfair to kind of boil these two teams down to just star players, but the way that Florian Wirtz played in that game was incredible, and just not just obviously in terms of his technical ability and the way he's able to create chances and goals, but it's going to make me sound like such an old man, but I just loved the way he got stuck in as well. He had defenders bouncing off him, and he was winning interceptions and winning tackles, and he just feels like he's at the absolute top of his game right now. You could see the confidence just kind of glowing off him. And to kind of compare him to Musiala, who, I don't want to be too unfair on Musiala, he's still a young player, he's still learning his trade, of course, but he became so important so quickly to that Bayern team. And it feels to me like the difference between these two teams right now is that one's got their playmaker at the top of his game, and one of them don't. And sometimes those little margins are all it takes to win a title.
Matt, do you agree?
I do. I've not got too much to add on the game. I didn't see. I've only seen the highlights packages during the half-time of the Bayern game. What stood out, though, is that I think last time we spoke about RB, we mentioned a couple of issues that they have to sort out. One was efficiency and clinicalness in front of goal. I feel like they actually made some good steps towards that, at least for what I could see, particularly with Xabi Simons on the sort of form that he was. Anyone who's not seen that opening goal, that touch, turn and shot just inside the box is absolutely phenomenal. Having him on the form will be absolutely key, and the return of Dani Olmo, I think, in the starting 11, I'm guessing for the first time since his injury. He came on as a sub last week against Frankfurt, didn't he? And that assist for what must be the second goal.
Was it the second? I think.
Yeah.
The counter attack.
It was on corner.
Exactly. Yeah. Counter. Yeah, the assist from Dani Olmo. That was actually, I thought, reminiscent of Bienkowski for Frankfurt on the same pitch last week. Maybe not quite as wide as Nkunku was, but absolutely inch perfect. So against another sign of the different level of quality that Dani Olmo brings. So in that department, I think they are making some progress there. But the glaring errors at the back really need sorting out. They're going to keep costing them. The second and the third goal for Leverkusen come from effectively the same situation, poor marking at the back post. And that's going to absolutely need sorting out. Otherwise, when you look at two defeats from two, meanwhile, Borussia Dortmund have won 2 from 2, and that gap has been completely wiped out.
Great transition, Matt, because we're going to go to that game.